So if you were to kind of like look across from from now until the end of the year, is there maybe a turning point that you're eyeing and you're hoping for, and maybe
Yeah,
if so, what is the
absolutely.
catalyst for that?
Okay, easy question, easy. So we're looking for the Federal Reserve to stop raising interest rates. Or so at this point they need to raise the interest rates to 0%. That will pull down the dollar and effectively drive up gold prices.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Angel Research Podcast. We're here as usual today to discuss the market's hottest stock stories and investment opportunities. We've got Mr. Luke Burgess on the show joining us today. He's currently trying to figure out his headphones. Luke is the founder and investment director of the weekly market advisory service Junior Mining Trader, and he's here to talk to us today about some price projections, the resource industry, consolidation in the gold industry, and how investors can take advantage of what is going on in the market right now. Per our usual disclaimer, nothing that we say here today is personal financial advice. Also, please like, comment, and subscribe, and join the Discord using the links in the description and the pinned comment below. Luke, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here. Do you want to give us a quick rundown of who you are, what Junior Mining Trader is, and why you love the resource industry so much?
That's a whole lot, but it's a whole lot to why I love the resource industry, particularly gold. But I'm Luke Burgess. I am the managing editor of the Junior Mining Trader, like you said. I also write for numerous other publications, including the Outsider Club, and I have my own fan list letter, Bull and Bust Report, and the Crow's Nest. What was the next question there? What do you have?
What got you into gold?
Oh, the gold. Yeah. Oh my God.
Or just resources in general,
I mean, honestly, it's about like real value. Like I really see the true value in like metals and lumber and food and things like that. Other things like technology, yeah, I see the value in it, but it's something about those hard assets.
They're more tangible.
Absolutely, more tangible. It's just simpler. It's. I don't really want to put that much thought into making money. I just want to make the money.
Sure.
I don't want to, and it's the way it is.
Okay, so gold, how has that performed so far this year?
Well, I wish I could tell you something better than it's performed quite poorly. Gold prices, we were very bullish on gold prices, particularly going into the beginning of February. We were excited about the Federal Reserve finally pulling back their interest rates hikes. But Mr. Market is fickle and likes to throw curveballs.
Well, we got that CPI read, which was kind of a surprise back in the other direction, right? Like I feel like the market was really excited that the inflation was coming down, and then we kind of got hit with this new read that maybe told us that it wasn't going to happen as fast as we thought it was. So, how much is that contributing?
I think the Federal Reserve is, like as they always do, I think they're playing a lot of rhetorical gymnastics to support the dollar, which, it's bad for us, but it is their job. So I don't know if I could really blame them for that. So not very well. Like I said, there was a lot of bullish sentiment going into the last FOMC meeting, but then immediately after that, if we could probably show a chart of gold, like a 6-month chart, you'll see gold prices sort of like turn around immediately after that FOMC meeting, and I think it had a lot to do with the jobs report that came out that Friday. That jobs report was like insanely better than expected. I think it was like 4 times better. That really boosted the dollar, and it really gave the dollar like it was a turning point for the dollar. And since then, there have been a couple more economic reports that have been positive that have continued to support the dollar. So even though we're very bullish on gold prices for the long term, right now it's not so great. It's a little skeptical, a little shaky right now.
So if you were to kind of like look across from from now until the end of the year, is there maybe a turning point that you're eyeing and you're hoping for, and maybe
Yeah,
if so, what is the
absolutely.
catalyst for that?
Okay, easy question, easy. So we're looking for the Federal Reserve to stop raising interest rates. Or so at this point, they need to raise the interest rates to 0%. That will pull down the dollar and effectively drive up gold prices.
Okay. Do you expect them to actually do that?
Yeah, well, they're going to have to. I mean,
You mean the rate of change being 0%, right?
no. So they increased at 0.25%
Gotcha.
last time.
Yes.
So they actually need to actually make no change to the interest rate.
Fair enough.
But if they start going to the negative side, I mean, dude, that would be incredible for gold. It would destroy the dollar. I don't think they want to do that, to be honest with you. It's probably their main thing. But the dollar is still very strong relative to its long term. I haven't looked at it in a few days, but my guess is the dollar index is probably about 103, 104 right now. Can we get a chart of that too?
So are you looking for like bad news as a gold investor? Does that make you,
Hey, dude,
if you
bad,
see
bad news for you, good news for me.
Sure.
You know?
I get it. I feel like we're at this point of almost a catch-22 where the inflation's out of control and everyone's saying that we need to get into a recession for the inflation to go into, to come under control, but it's just not happening.
Yeah. So yeah, it is not happening. Inflation is very high. The last CPI was 6.4%. Is that correct?
You know better than me.
I think it was. Yeah. I think it all mixed up in my head.
We'll throw a fact check up on it.
It was 6.4%, or it was 6.5%, and the previous one was 6.5%, or 6.6 points. I'm getting confused myself. I think it was 6.4%, 6.5%, 7.1%. That's my guess. So yeah, it's still high, even though it is slightly coming down. It's not as high as it was in July, which I think was 9.1%. But it's coming down.
So do you think a recession is inevitable at this point?
I think that I mean, look, if I like hard definitions. If you want,
sure, you're saying we've already
been in a recession. Yeah. I'm going to look. If you want to say that those past instances were recessions, we got to say this one was too.
Yeah.
Even though we don't like to say it,
it makes sense. I feel like I've actually fallen into that trap originally when we first entered the technical recession, and there was a lot of this kind of political, like these political talking points saying that why we really weren't in a recession, and now it just seems to be everyone's just accepted that we're not in a recession, even though we have technically entered one.
They manipulated the market very well.
Okay, I want to move the conversation to this subject of ore grade, which you have recently kind of turned me onto. I did not know this about the basic premise being that the quality of ore for gold, and apparently for pretty much most other metals or many other metals as well, has been declining over time. I think when a lot of people think about the aspect of mining gold, they're thinking about people are, digging in the rock with pitchforks or with tractors, and they're pulling out chunks of gold. And you had shown me this kind of a picture of a rock that you have that is I guess a better representation of what gold actually looks like when you're pulling it out of the ground. And it just is we could probably get that picture up as well. And it's just a rock with little tiny specks of gold.
And that's a very high grade rock, right?
Yes. And you have to figure out a way to extract those little specks of gold. And I found that all pretty interesting. But essentially, you've been telling the story as it does have, a lot of effects on the mining industry. It's creating some sort of a consolidation. So could you maybe talk about this from your perspective?
So declining ore grade is something that the market has been dealing with basically forever. I feel pretty comfortable in saying declining ore grade has been going on since we discovered gold.
Yeah. Well, that chart you showed me was pretty wild.
Yeah. So basically, you have the low hanging fruit. The low hanging fruit's going to get picked first. That's how the decline in the grade happens. You start to process the most profitable stuff, the cheapest stuff to do, and then you run out of that. You have to go to lower and lower grades. And that's where we're at right now. I believe the average gold grade right now is 1.38 grams per ton, which is crazy. Imagine a ton of rock. It's probably about the size of this squared, like let's say, come out about 2 feet. That's about a ton of rock, depending on density. There's a gram of gold in that rock. It's a tiny little speck. And remember, gold is one of the heaviest things, so it's like barely visible in there.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at today. So in the future, we know that we're going to have to figure out some other way to get smaller or to process lower and lower grades if we want to continue to mine gold. In the 1950s, there was a big or 1950s and 60s, there was a big change in technology that allowed producers to produce much lower grades. Without that, we would still have to be mining placer gold. We wouldn't be mining what we call disseminated gold.
So my investing brain immediately goes to a couple of things. It goes to if it is becoming that much harder to extract gold, and this is obviously going to have an effect on mining companies.
Yeah, it's going to cost more. Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
the cost of mining.
Yeah.
It's also going to increase the price of gold over time, probably,
Absolutely.
because we're extracting less and the supply is going to be less. And then I think about the technology as well. What kind of investment opportunities do you see around this situation over the next decade or so?
Well, I think largely it's a supply and demand thing. The supply of gold is the Earth's supply of gold is not increasing. Our above ground supply is increasing, but at the same time, the population is increasing much, much faster. I think it's general supply and demand. A lot of people, a lot of demand for gold. If you were to get all of the gold in the world that's ever been mined, I don't know. Somebody did this a long time ago. I think it would be a cube of like 20 meters by 20 meters by 20 meters. It's not very much. If you were to divide that gold up by the 8 billion people around the world, every person would get less than a quarter ounce of gold. It's a tiny little speck. So already there's not really that much gold per person. It really isn't going to take that many more people to just like drive the demand so much more higher.
What about the? Go ahead.
I just want to say the short of the answer was general supply and demand.
Fair enough. So what about technology in terms of extracting the gold out, or maybe, analyzing mines? Are they utilizing LiDAR or anything like that? What kind of advancements are going on in terms of technology?
So there are all kinds of advancements all the time. There's advancements in exploration. There's advancements in how to build the mines. There's advancements in literally the mining aspect. Right now, I don't think that there's any particularly revolutionary technology that's on the horizon that is going to help miners process lower and lower grades. That probably will be something in the future, but right now, heap leaching really is doing a decent job for them. They can produce gold from pretty low grades with heap leaching.
What does that process involve?
So heap leaching, it's basically blasting the rock out of the ground, piling it up in a big pile, and then running chemical. I don't want to get into this specific, but you run chemicals at the top of it. It leaches down, and you end up with what they call a pregnant solution. You take that solution; it's pregnant with silver and gold and precious metals, and you extract the minerals from that solution.
Fair enough. So what do they use, magnets or
to get the liquid out?
Well, to get get the gold, to separate the gold from the liquid.
So there are multiple ways to separate that gold from the liquid. You not so common anymore. You actually just press it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't know how I understand how that works, but if you press this pregnant solution, you can squeeze the gold out of it.
Okay,
Today, I'd say more so it's flotation. So they put that stuff in a big vat, and it floats to the top. They skim that stuff off the top.
Is there who's providing those kinds of I assume there's chemicals and stuff that
chemical companies.
Yeah.
There's a billion different chemical companies.
Fair enough, but yeah, they're not specific to gold.
No, it's like Dow Chemical.
Yeah.
BA.
Yeah.
BAFS, whatever it is.
Okay, what about you have alluded to the fact that there's some heavy consolidation in the in the gold industry, and that some of that may be being driven by this, declining ore problem. I know that you recently wrote about a company, Newmont, which made a very large, I think, close to $20 billion offer for another gold company, Newcrest. Newcrest denied that deal. Why'd they turn that deal down?
Oh, well, you'd have to ask them.
Okay.
I could speculate. I actually don't want to speculate on that because.
Because you don't know?
No, well, I don't know, and it's not a positive speculation. So okay, yeah, it's a little bit.
You're allowed to be negative, Luke.
No. It's like I'm accusing the CEO of something.
Oh, okay, all right.
That I can't prove.
Okay. Damn, I want to know now. Just throw a disclaimer up there, man.
It's better. It's not. The M&As.
Yeah.
So the M&A, it gets very confusing because there are so many, and first there's so many. They're the same players, and the numbers get the same for some reason. So my mergers and acquisitions started to pick up in mining in 2018 with Barrick. Man, it's hard to remember all this off the top of my head. Barrick acquiring Randgold, and they did that for $18.3 billion or $18 billion. I don't know.
Which is really close to what Newmont was going to pay for Newcrest, right?
Yeah. So after that, Barrick decided that it was going to try a hostile takeover of Newmont for another $18 billion. That failed. You see how this is getting all confusing. And now Newmont, there have been several other mergers and acquisitions in between there, including Newcrest's acquisition of Pretium. But Newmont now put an offer in to buy Newcrest for it was reported at $16 billion, but I actually think it was like $15.9 billion. But however, they rejected that offer. But that is very important because it is a big offer. $16 billion to $18 billion is a lot of money in mining. It's not a lot of money in tech. But the gold industry is highly fractured to begin with. So when we talk about consolidation, I actually think it would be better for gold, for shareholders at least, for the market to consolidate a little bit. But what we're talking about...
What's the benefit to the shareholder there? Is it kind of giving the smaller miners access to the larger companies' technology or infrastructure?
It cuts risk.
Okay.
Because you have so many fractured companies that makes it, you have a lot of junk out there.
Gotcha. Let's say that Newcrest didn't turn that deal down. Do you think that it would have been approved anyway? Would it have passed the regulatory hurdles that exist?
Excellent question. I don't know, because this merger would have made the largest mining. So it would have almost doubled Newmont's market cap relative to their next competitor, which is Barrick.
Gotcha.
Would the regulatory bodies allow it? They'd bitch. I mean, you'd have a bunch of people complaining about it. Would they allow it? I don't know. It would be quite a shit show. However, Newcrest, it seems that they have left the offer open, even though they rejected it. Financial Times reported that Newcrest gave Newmont some non-public information, so maybe they'll take it for a little bit more money. I don't think $16 billion, man. That's a lot of cash.
It's a lot of cash. Do you know what their market cap is? Or do they publicly trade Newcrest?
Yeah, I don't know it off the top of my head. My guess is 22 to 25.
Fair enough. Well, that sounds like a pretty shit deal for investors.
If
they took it, I could see that's an easy way. It makes sense why they would deny that if their market cap is already above that deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Phosphate. Last time you were on here, we talked about phosphate. There was a phosphate shortage. It's had a lot to do with kind of what was going on with the Russia invading Ukraine. Is that an opportunity that is still around, or has that kind of passed? What's the deal with that?
It's really a tricky one. I think phosphate is like many other natural resources, like water. It is absolutely critical. It's just very difficult to get people excited and interested.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, getting people excited and interested moves markets. And without that, you can't move the markets. I don't know why people aren't excited to eat. I love it.
Okay, yeah, maybe give us some context, because I think a lot of people probably don't know what phosphate is really used for and the context behind it. I certainly didn't before it was really brought up. I mean, obviously I've heard of phosphate before, but I didn't know quite how critical it is in the food supply chain.
Yeah, to be honest with you, until about 5 years ago, neither did I. I mean, I again, same thing. I knew about it, and I kind of like, yeah, they use it for fertilizer. But then, when it hits you, you're like, oh my god, this is crazy. So yes, like you said, it's used for fertilizer. Phosphate is one of the 3 macronutrients in fertilizers that give plants. I don't know what it gives plants.
The food.
It gives it phosphorus.
Yeah.
And that's where we get our phosphorus from our plants and animals.
And where is most of the world's phosphate mined? Like where do you get that?
So most of the world's phosphate is actually mined today in China. However, the majority of the resources are located in Morocco. Those 2 countries are the big 2 of phosphate.
Do we have any access to it here?
Yes, actually, North America does have quite a bit of phosphate. Very fortunately, particularly in Florida, there are lots of phosphate mines down there.
Are those mines active, or are we kind of just sitting on them because it's cheaper?
No, they are active, and we do have a lot of domestic supply.
Well, that's good, because I feel like we're very dependent on China for a lot of resources.
Yeah, well, the environmentalists don't know what's happening with the phosphate yet. When they figure it out, they're going to freak out. And
what's going on?
The specific phosphate that is produced here in North America, it's actually the most common phosphate. It's like 95% of all phosphate. Is what they called sedimentary phosphate. This is phosphate at one point sunk to the bottom of the ocean, solidified, and that's how we mine it. Right? We get it from Florida because at one point that was an ocean. That's and same with Morocco. But the sedimentary phosphate has other minerals in it. Sometimes, many times, those are toxic minerals. We're talking lead, cadmium, and radioactive minerals, uranium and thorium. So, and you don't process those out. You put those in a big pile in your backyard, and you hope nobody asks what kind of stuff is in that big pile. Nobody's asked. I mean, some people have asked. It's just not a national conversation yet. With the right people, it probably will be.
Fair enough. Kind of scary.
It is, yeah. Mining does not have a good name, but when you start getting to radioactive, heavy metals, lead, cadmium, people are really afraid of that kind of stuff.
Okay, so while we're on the topic of social and environmental issues around mining, have you been following any of the cobalt stuff at all? The cobalt mining story, or the lithium, and any of that?
Loosely, I kind of leave that to Keith.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I loosely follow the cobalt and lithium energy metals. I'm interested in that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Are there any opportunities that kind of stand out in that realm?
Not off the top of my head. Lithium mining is much different than mining other minerals like silver, copper, gold. You could basically mine those pretty much the same way. Lithium mining is a whole other ball of wax.
How so?
I actually don't. So that's like lithium salt. I actually don't know the process of actually extracting the lithium from the rock. It's something I haven't really wrapped my head around. It's just not really worth learning.
Fair enough. So you're sticking to gold and
gold metals, gold, precious metals.
Yeah.
And the base metals. Copper, nickel, tin.
Yeah. I hear copper ore grade. When you were telling me about the ore grades declining, I saw that copper was one of the main ones. Are there any opportunities? And I feel like people probably don't get too excited about copper either.
They don't. It's crazy. But crazy.
Regardless, if the supply demand situation is in its favor, then the companies are going to make more money, right? And the valuations will go up. So what are there any opportunities there in copper, silver? So any of these other base metals?
So if you want to, a good copper company is Franco-Nevada. So it's actually a gold and copper company. So you get both of those.
Gotcha.
I think that's probably the best way to go.
Do
Yes, right now copper prices are very high. I believe that they're record prices right now.
Is that why everyone's stealing copper?
Maybe.
Is that what's in? Is that why people steal the catalytic converters? What's in the catalytic converters? Is that it's not copper?
No, it's platinum and palladium.
Platinum and palladium. All right.
But right now they're going after the palladium, which is double the price of platinum, I think.
All right. What else you got going on?
Mikhail Gorbachev.
Go on.
Did you read my fan list?
I didn't. I
read it. It's a funny story.
Yeah. Before heading in here, I read all your Outsider Club articles, but I didn't get on the premiums.
Yeah, well, it's the last thing I've written, so it's the last thing that's on my mind.
Sure. You want to?
No. You read the story. It's funny.
Okay. So, okay, maybe we'll put a link out to your fan list.
Yeah.
All right. Cool, Luke. It's good having you on. And anything we want to plug before we go?
I think I'm good.
No, you don't want to tell people to buy Junior Mining Trader?
Yeah, please buy Junior Mining Trader. I don't have any promos out right now, but yes, absolutely. You'll make a lot of money.
Okay. Luke, good having you on.
Thanks.
All right. Everyone else, subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. See ya.